My name's Guy. I'm from a company that's based in Loughborough called Graff.io. I'm here with a couple of colleagues, Andy who's filming over it, and Steve. We've looked into augmented reality and we thought, well, how do you do this? We've looked into apps that are available, different technologies. And the only way that we could find that we could really do it is to collaborate with another company. So these three guys here are Swipe and Tap. They're a Loughborough-based tech company, and they're building a prototype app. It's in the prototype stage at the moment, but an augmented reality app. So they're around later on, if anyone would like to see some of the early kind of version of kind of some of the stuff you saw in the video, that some of this is available now. These are guys that are kind of building it, and we've got some pictures, and we'll show you some augmented layers on that afterwards if you want. So, Graff.io. So, Graff.io is a small company based in Loughborough. It's only 4 of us. It's very small, very tight. We do a lot of creative collaborations. We say that we're kind of an art shop. Now, this is kind of our opening statement. This is the way we talk about ourselves. Now, this was probably written about 2 months ago. And it's already kind of out of date. We're finding that it's already out of date. We've said, okay, in these new where we're exploring these new areas where there's all the things, the kind of things that are coming up within that shop experience. If you're going to a museum and you're dealing with art in a museum, or you're going to a shop or you're buying online, there are all these different kind of channels and these different avenues. And all these kind of interesting projects come up, and we're meeting Sean, and we did the Gallery Without Walls project some of you might know about. That's a kind of joint collaboration. We've met Robert recently, and we're finding lots of overlaps. And there's too many cool things going on that we want to get involved in. And there's a lot happening in Loughborough and Leicestershire. I worked in London for 20 years, and I'm so glad I moved back here. Because the stuff going on here, and the people I'm meeting here, the doors that are opening, and things that are going on. London pats itself on the back. You know, it's obviously the capital, and there's all these things, but I'm seeing more doors opening here, more creative things happening more easily and more accessibly for people here. And one of our agendas at the company is, how can we do collaborations? How can we help with projects without going bankrupt? That's the MD. You know, we're looking at ways that we can do things, and part of that is if there's any way possible to stop the brain drain and to look at ways, are there ways that people could do collaborative projects here and do cool things and not have to move to the capital. You know, get as much interesting stuff going on as possible. So we've got issues here where we say we're an art shop and we sell art online. When I say art, I mean the arts. It could be art, design, whatever. And this thing, we've also got a problem here when we're talking about the real world. But what is the real world? That's a problem already. So there's all these different kind of things that are interesting, and we're finding ways that a company that's traditionally a certain kind of art shop has to change and merge and go forward. And we're looking at all the steps around looking at artwork, experiencing art, and all the things involved in that, and how we might have to change with it. And this is one of the reasons we're interested in AR and XR tech. There's different layers, different ways to look at things. So this is, for me, kind of sums up where we are, that the genie's out of the bottle, that this new technology means that things will never be the same. So everyone knows Minecraft, yeah? Everyone knows kids that have got Minecraft. So Minecraft Earth is coming up, where a kid could be playing, I say kid, could be at any age, could be playing Minecraft on their phone or on their computer, and all of you can see it through your device on this table as they're playing it. And we've seen Pokemon technology where, so young people are getting used to this stuff already. Okay, now within the arts, I've been thinking about this stuff since William Gibson, since like the 90s, and kind of, you know, it's been in the creative sci-fi and cyberpunk mindset for a long time. And the technology is finally here where we can actually start getting on with it. Your guys help with that. So interesting time. So it's almost as if nothing will ever be the same since now. Right, now this is a bit scary. Don't want to be too boring with this, but this thing, when we've looked at all the different situations in terms of what do we have to deal with if we are a company that's looking at selling art or dealing with art, and how does that relate to how a museum or a gallery would deal with it, and the core kind of journeys to experiencing art. Okay, so this is within the online world. This is the real world. Okay, so if there's an exhibition on, or there's one of these prints are online for sale, you don't just wake up and a canvas falls on your head. You have to find out that it exists. So in the analog world, you might see something on a bus, you might get a leaflet. You know, what are the ways that you find out that this is available? If we were selling stuff online, it might be a Facebook ad, it might be a comment somewhere. Yeah, something kicks off, and you find out when it happens. Then do you decide to see it? If you're online, you might, do I click it or not? The click. Now, all these bits are the elephant in the room. All the things that Robert will talk about how behind the scenes, how do you get stuff made? How does stuff happen? So relating to each of these things, all the stuff we have to worry about. So if we're doing Facebook ads, to show someone some work, there's work going on there. If there's a real gallery, they're putting work into leaflets, or there's word of mouth, all the things that go on behind the scenes to enable this to happen. So say you click to it, you see the work, or you go to a museum. If you look at it online, you might decide, oh, I didn't want to see that anyway, it's horrible, it's rubbish, and you click off and go and watch a video on YouTube or something. There's your initial experience of walking into a museum space or a gallery, the architecture in the space, the lighting, and that kind of thing. And then your real experience of the work, okay? Now, so at this point, we could be looking at how AR gives you different layers. So where you needed Paul McCartney to sing there, to add another layer, we can add Paul McCartney. If we had a painting there, that you could have an overlay through your phone that gives you information about that artist. So these things are real tools that help industry and help the arts in different ways. So this could be about art, the arts, but it also needs designing and thinking about and teams of people. So we might have a situation that when Robert's talking about this diagram about how you could have, in regards to an actual physical city, you've got town planning and you've got committees going to architects, going to managers, down to engineers, and then interior designers, and then the signage. You've got all these layers. Now, if you think about the video at the start, so if you go into an environment like this, and all this stuff's popping up at you, right? And then you go out the street, and all this stuff's popping up at you. That's like a virtual layer of the same kind of pyramid that you'd have within city planning. So if there's a city planner that's dealing with traffic flow and heritage areas and different layers of the city and how they work, what about the augmented reality version? Who controls that? Do you go around? There's a curation aspect of different parts of it, but there's also the planning. And the planning is almost like, if you imagine the software that you'd have for airports, for coordination of planes flying over so they don't hit each other. Do you have that same control for the city and the signage for the city and the extra layers of signage? So you can imagine that these things start to become a problem or something that's going to be dealt with. So we can use AR in these kind of situations around here to help us. And then there's things like, living with the art or living with the design. What change does that have on you? Are we producing meaningful work? And then, if they bought a print, are they going to come back and buy another print? Ace. Or, what is the experience of a gallery going into a gallery? So we're looking at all these different experiences, and we call it our art experience anchor. is the thing we pin our ideas to wrestle with, to look at what we need to deal with. Was that really bad? Was that too boring? Okay, jury's out. Okay, so if we're looking at what we might expect from this technology, there's certain kind of patterns for prediction. So if we look at how 50s sci-fi, 60s sci-fi looked at the future, we know there's things like they thought there would be robots walking around bringing us cups of tea and things like that. It's quite a cute idea. But there's certain things like, say in Star Trek, where someone's walking around on the bridge, Captain Kirk, like in the 60s, and he's got a thing like an iPad. Right? Now, there's certain things that are quite easy to predict and certain things that aren't. Now, if there's certain patterns, it helps you to predict. So if they had TVs in their homes at that time, that was certain size, like black and white, they saw enough to build a pattern. So they might have seen a next generation of TV that was slightly smaller, or it was colour. So you could imagine that technology improves in a certain way, it gets smaller, or it gets more efficient. So then you can imagine how, well, Captain Kirk doesn't need to, he can have this flat thing in his hand. But they didn't go the next step and go, he can touch it with his hand, they had a pen. And he'd write it like almost like a till roll, so something like this. So there's certain kind of things you can predict. So that really predicts the iPad, how many years later. So you can predict that, it's quite easy. But you can't predict that it was a guy called Steve Jobs, and he was interested in calligraphy, and how you'd need a mouse, and then the Windows metaphor. The whole, someone had to invent this, the idea that you use a window, and you've got this mouse. You know, these things are hard to predict. You know you've got an interface. So there's certain things, so it's like, what can we expect from XR? So, if we take the museum as an example, and we look at, say, what the effect the internet's had on things for the last 10 years, could we expect that this XR and AR technology will be the same change the internet brought about, or will it be something different? So if you imagine the change in museums, you've got the physical structure of the museum, the architecture of it, you've got the staffing of it, the hanging on walls, all these different aspects that someone traditionally would deal with. And your memory of that museum, your understanding of it, would be your experience of that physical building and the hanging and interacting with the art, right? So if you imagine now that the V&A, this was a few years ago, had 3.5 million people through the door, 30 million online visitors, 10 times as much. We tend to think of things these days in terms of brands. So if you've got the brand for the V&A, the brand, the central thing to the brand was this physical building, the architecture of this building, your experience. Now, that's 1/10 of the things that you need to deal with, because you've got the website, you've got MoMA now has all their collection online. So you've got this massive world that you need to deal with that's 10 times as big. And you've got all the assets involved with that and all the staffing for that. Now the staffing and the creating a website is a lot cheaper than architecture. Building a car park for visitors and dealing with the town planning down to a city and traffic and people travelling to the gallery is a lot more expensive and a lot more impactful compared to building websites and building apps and building things like that. So, if this is the case, you can imagine that the web, with the convenience of the web, I said about this idea that how do you find out that art exists, a canvas doesn't drop on your head when you wake up in the morning. You can have a beep on your phone and just reach over and it's like, oh, Picasso exhibition. It is that easy, so you don't need to go and visit the gallery, okay? So the web has given us this convenience that's taken away some of the physical, potentially, okay? So, if the web is an alternative experience, as a screen-based experience, could it be that this XR, AR technology, because it's locative, because it requires, this could be a trigger for AR, I have to come here and be here to view it. That actually, compared to the internet, maybe this is the thing that brings us back to reality in a strange way, into locations, and to having to get off our butts and go and travel somewhere to experience it. Because even if we're interested in the extra layers, we can't get them unless we're at a distance where we can have our screen or our visor from the object. So it might actually be that this is the thing that actually gets us back to more physical stuff. Okay? So I remember taking some students to the Tate years ago, and one of them couldn't get that a Liechtenstein painting on the canvas was so grubby. And she was saying, why didn't you finish it? It's all messy. And it's a generation that used to screen-based imagery that isn't a physical object. And it's quite hard to understand the physicality of a canvas that is an image, but it's also a physical thing. And the experience that in an art gallery, or being at a party, or being at an event, or being at a concert. Being at a concert is very different to listening to some music. That, you know, so this might actually be quite an interesting thing, that it might bring us back to stuff in a certain way. So I talked about the hierarchies in terms of, to a certain extent, that will this stuff need planning? And if in augmented reality you have markers, so this thing here could be the marker, and this could be a piece of art, could be whatever, and then you have the augmented stuff, the video, on a server. When the device recognises that, it plays the video. That's the basis of how this stuff works. Okay? So the things coming up will be who owns these markers. And this is something we talked about, Sean, I think Sean might go here, but there's some quite interesting challenges coming up. Will they all end up getting owned by Google? Or, you know, and we're looking at, currently these guys, we've been talking to these guys and they're uploading our markers and our images. Okay, so if I'd taken a photograph of this the other day and given it to these guys, they would have uploaded this and then uploaded our video. So when you view it, you see our video in relation to that. So if you're using our app, you see our augmented reality. If you're using someone else's app, you see their reality. And these things get quite complicated and quite interesting, and so we go into that kind of place. So this other thing about, you know, are we going to have town planners working with architects, and then are we going to have UI architects, UI planners or something working in conjunction? It's going to be quite interesting and strange. And this is the other thing that, I mean, I'm traditionally a jack of all trades. I work in design, I work in branding, I work in spatial design and teaching and stuff like this. And I'm very old-fashioned in that regard. There aren't many people like me. Most people are quite specialists in industries and more specialists. And I'm wondering, does that mean you need a team of 10 people for every time you want to do one thing? Because you need, let's get the AR department. And they're like, oh yeah, well, I've got to get this checked. And you've got all these people just to do a leaflet. Or whether people are going to get multi-skilled more, get used to having this in their portfolio of different skills. So, in terms of, for slightly freaky people like me that are into kind of cyber culture, and I include Sean in this as well, that are into kind of the evolution of this kind of culture, cyber culture, and technology and sci-fi and interface and how we deal with this stuff. A lot of these ideas have been around for quite a long time, definitely since the 90s. And there was a thing with the internet that a lot of the stuff that we projected that we wanted or we thought the internet was, it actually wasn't. It's just some text that sent down some wires. And we imagined we imagined a kind of, that this could be something richer. And the technology is actually here now to kind of join the dots. So we might have to find that an art installation that you're used to now has these extra layers. Or you might find that these 3 chairs are the exhibit, and then you see it when you point your phone at it. But then we're going to have the thing where, because kids are going to be doing this in Pokemon and in Minecraft, the art world might find that a little bit wanky. So it's like, kids do that. So we might have this kind of interesting kind of debate in that area. The other thing is the thing about there can be the surprise element of this, that if someone is wearing a visor and it's open all the time, you're a susceptible target to people's advertising on all this kind of stuff. Now that's going to be the thing, how we deal with that. Whether it's like you're getting attacked or whether you filter certain stuff, and that's going to be the other thing. And this markers, who owns the markers? And we know there's been a debate about with big cable in America at the moment, and that area coming in. So, we talked about, could this lead to a new form of art? We don't know where it's going to go. We know that it's going to be a different discipline, and we know there are going to be different areas. And it may be that the William Gibson type stuff, where you go to a location and the work doesn't exist, it only exists in AR. We're actually talking about a project the other day where we've got a piece of work and it might be a blank wall, and we've got to get this past the council. The thing we want to put on it, the council won't say yes to. So we're going to have a blank wall, and this dodgy thing is going to exist in the augmented reality layer. So there's all these kind of interesting things coming up. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I'll leave you with that as more of, a questioning point. Okay.
So we'll have the discussion after. I think there are lots of questions.